Welcome back. So if you're just joining us, this is Breakfast Daily, and we just listened to the words of Pen God. And I must say, he's really good. Anyway, it's time for our nutrition segment, and we're going to be delving deep into a topic that affects our everyday meal, especially if we eat meals that are always packaged. Today, we're going to be talking about food packaging and its impact on our health. And helping us, decipher all that, we have Esther Obeng-Mensah, who's the opulent dietitian and co-founder of Zen Diet Consult. So welcome, Esther.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. Good morning.
Hi. It's good to have you here again.
Yeah.
All right, so Esther, food packaging, is it good or bad?
It has its advantages and disadvantages.
All right, so take us through.
Okay, so when it comes to food packaging, we have two types of food packaging. We have the traditional food packaging and we have the industrial food packaging. And so when it comes to the traditional one, that is where we have the leaves.
Right.
That is where we have the vegetable fibers. We have the leaves from banana, plantain. We have the baskets and all of that, the mats and all of that. And they also have a role they play when it comes to certain types of food in terms of packaging.
Right.
Because the type of packaging determines the type of food which is involved, and also determine the chain of food processing, because right from the farm through to the industry down to the consumer. So at every point in this chain determine the type of package that needs to be applied. So generally it is to protect the food against physical, biological and then chemical damage. That is the food. So packaging has a role it plays when it comes to food processing in general. Yeah.
How can it then, it's supposed to perform a good purpose, good function. How can it then negatively affect our health?
Okay, so when as I made mention earlier on, it has the physical protection, it has the chemical protection, it has the biochemical protection. That's chemical, physical, and then the biochemical. All right. So in terms of the negative aspect, that is where we have the industrial packages. That's where the plastic comes in. We have the metal type of packaging. We have the aluminum type of packaging. We have the paper type of packaging. And then when it comes to that aspect, that is where our health is at stake. However, with the traditional, it doesn't mean that it's totally safe, because they also protect the food to some extent, not totally. And so with the biochemical part of it, or the biological part of it, that is where in terms of infection, the bacterial infection in terms affecting the food, that is with the industrial and then the traditional. With this side, that is where the industrial side is a bit higher compared to the traditional side, because the traditional it just focuses more on the physical temper of the food. That is when the leaves comes in, or local food like kenke. You have this local wache, and you also have some white one. You use the green leaves, the green part of the abolo and stuff like that. And so when it comes to the industrial one, that is when the plastic comes in. And the plastic also have types of the plastic. That is the PVC. We also have the bisphenol A. We also have the hard and soft type of plastic. And so when it comes to the negative, I'm trying to lay this foundation so you understand the negative part of it. It doesn't also mean that it's totally negative, just for the industrial one, the cans and all of that. You have a chemical that we call bisphenol A. And this particular one is added to these plastics to avoid the barriers, liquid barrier or oxidation of these foods. And so when this chemical is introduced to this type of packages, so in general, plastic in general is not harmful. Metal in general is not harmful. Aluminum in general is not harmful. However, when these chemicals are introduced, which they have functional purposes, that is to help with the liquid barrier protection, and also for breakages, in terms of the packaging itself, they need to make it firm so it can be very durable. All of these things come into place so that they can make the packages very well in order to protect the food. In the process of adding these chemicals to it, that is when our health is at stake. Because when the food comes into contact with these plastics, it doesn't mean that just into contact, then there is this leach of these chemicals. When there is heat application, and then when the food is fatty, That is when there's the tendency of the leakage of these harmful chemicals into the food.
All right, so what should consumers be most cautious of, especially for the fact that you've talked about these chemicals? Is there a way that we can actually look maybe at the back of the packaging and see, okay, this is part of the packaging?
Yeah.
Is there a way to check out for labels or stuff? Like, how do we know that there's this chemical in this packaging?
Yes, so I think as the year passed by and health concern is rising, and the industry has also come to that realization. And so most of it, they state that it's bisphenol free in terms of the packaging. Yes, they state it on the cans and the plastic things, but majority out there still have some amount of these chemicals. And so what we as consumers need to take caution is how frequently we use food that have been packaged with these packages. That is how best we on our side can. That's the best way we can also protect ourselves. And we should go in for food that are more packaged with the traditional ones. Now I like the fact that paper packaging is emerging, which most of the food industries especially are adapting to. And most of these packages are free from the bisphenol A. However, it doesn't mean that some don't apply to the lining of these papers because of the liquid barrier that they're trying to prevent. And so, but most of the paper packages are safer compared to the plastic. However, the plastic, they also have grades, which you don't have time to really go into. But with the normal one is polythene, which is out there. And one disadvantage also to the environment is it's not biodegradable.
Yeah.
Its decomposition takes hundreds of years, and this chokes our gutters, and most of
trash,
exactly. And the land are used for farming and all of that, which come back to us in terms of food production. And these plastics affect the land. So it doesn't only affect the consumer directly, it affects right from the source, from production through to the chain, and then it comes to the consumer. Hence, it is the need for us to really pay attention to food packaging.
All right, so when you talk about food packaging, will we say the milk in tin is food package?
Yes, it is type of a food package.
All right, so with that now, can you give us some tips on, how to manage these sort of produce that we buy? Because most of the times we buy milk, we buy sardine, and then you see some people, they even open the sardine and leave the food in the tin until it finishes. So, can you just help us with some tips on how to manage our open tins when it comes to, food that are in tins?
Exactly. So one of the main purposes why tin packaging comes in is to avoid oxidation and to protect the nutrients that are in this food, because when they are exposed, definitely it's going to affect the nutrient. However, when the things come in, that's the milk and stuff, those days we used to just use the paper around the tin to just seal where it has been pierced, and then we put it back into the fridge. And then the sardines and the tinapers, exactly, the markers and stuff like that. But it's not advisable because the moment it's being opened, there's that introduction of oxygen. And then there's that kind of corrosion or there's that kind of rusting that takes place. These leach into the food. So it's advisable that when you open the tins, you need to, whatever is left over, you need to put them in bowls and then put them in the fridge. So with that, it also saves us from any other chemical that would leach in. So it's advisable not to put open tins in your refrigerator. Make sure the part that is being used, whatever is left, then you put it in a bowl and then you put it in your fridge. That is the best way. Yeah.
Right. So if we can just wrap it up for us. So we have the metallic cans. We just talked about the milk, for example. So things like sardines, we should pour it out. Once we've taken, if you're not going to use all of it, we pour it out.
Exactly.
Okay. And what's the best way to preserve it? Once you pour it out, what would be the best way to preserve that?
So
something like sardine.
So it should be in. This sardine has a little oil. Tends to help with the preservation of the fish. So just have to put in a bowl, which is a covered bowl. Then just put it in your refrigerator.
With the oil around.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way. However, let's minimize the use of these tin foods or these processed foods. That's the best way. We have the fresh ones that we can equally use.
So what about milk?
Yeah, so milk, we have the paper.
If you're saying we should reduce the tin, so would you say we should rather do powder? Would you rather say we should do the paper? And
exactly, we have a whole range of type of milk. We have the plant-based, which are preserved in the paper type of packaging, with almond milk, soya milk, and all of that, yes. And so if the Ghanaian market can really consider that we can relocate from the tin to, however, it depends on if their ability to reduce the chemical that is being used in the lining. If they are not, we can gradually transition to the paper way of packaging.
What about bottles?
Yes, bottles are also bottles or glass. They are also a type of packaging.
Because that's what I do. Like when I finish maybe juice, I keep the bottle for something else, like milk.
Yeah.
And I just pour it. So
Exactly.
is bottle good?
Bottle is good, but it all has disadvantages. The bottle, it's breakable. No, I'm not talking about it affecting the food. It's breakable in terms of it handling.
Right.
Yes, so if kids are around and stuff like that, you would minimize the use because they don't really have the breakages and stuff like that. But there's one thing I nearly forgot. In terms of this bisphenol A, one thing that is very crucial, that it has this hormonal disruption. It disrupts our hormones that are responsible for metabolism, growth and development, sexual functions.
This is the bisphenol, which is in the plastics.
Which are in the plastics, which disrupts all of this. That's the hormones. These hormones play very vital roles in terms of growth and development.
Yes.
So that's one of the things you need to really take note of when you are buying things that are packaged in plastics.
All right. Thank you very much. Where can people reach out to you if they want to get more information?
Okay, on all social media handles, Opulent Dietitian, or you can also WhatsApp me on 0574 875796, or Opulent Dietitian or Zen Diet Consult. Also, just book for my services. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for coming through. We've been speaking with Esther Obeng-Mensah. She is the Opulent Dietitian and also co-founder of Zen Diet Consult. Well,